Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Friday, June 28th edition of the MMAOB Daily Show. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. Going to be taking you guys through the latest in the world of mixed martial arts. Follow me on Twitter, guys, at MMAOB. This podcast is available at MMAOddsbreaker.com and our YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe. Also, check me out at sherdog.com, bjpen.com, MMAnews.com, and MMARings.net. Congrats, guys. You made it to Friday. We all did, so awesome. The weekend's here. It's a long weekend for us Canadians. Canada Day is on Monday. I can't wait for that. So a couple of days off to relax. Of course, I have to work, though. I'll be covering UFC on ESPN3 for Sherdog tomorrow. I'll be doing the live play-by-play. So I got Monday off, but I'm still working tomorrow. So I know a lot of you guys are in the same boat. A lot of us have to work the weekends. Nothing wrong with that, though. So I'm looking forward to covering that card, and hopefully you guys can tune into that play-by-play. All right, so we got a few things to talk about today. Not a huge show. There wasn't a bunch of crazy breaking stories last night or anything like that. But definitely a few things I want to touch on here. First and foremost, Francis Ngannou. So there's a few things to talk about Francis. He's fighting JDS tomorrow night. It's going to be a great fight. I can't wait for that one. First off, he said that the winner of this fight should get the next title shot against the winner of UFC 241's Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic too. I agree 100% with him. Is that going to happen, though? I don't know. I mean, if DC – just say DC does beat Stipe and say Francis beats JDS, would – DC really want to fight Francis? I don't know. It seems like a really risky matchup for DC, who's nearing retirement. So as much as I do think Francis would deserve a title shot if he does beat JDS, I just have a feeling that fight wouldn't happen. I don't think DC would take that fight. And honestly, I don't know if he would even take a JDS fight at this point. I don't know. I think DC is looking for the Stipe fight. Dana White says he has two more after that. You have to assume Jon Jones will be one of them. We'll see what happens with the fight with Thiago Santos next week. But I don't know. I can't really see him wanting to fight Francis Ngannou. It seems like way too risky if I'm DC. I know what Francis is saying. He would deserve a title shot, so would JDS if he wins tomorrow, especially if either guy gets a huge knockout. Impressive fashion kind of wins. Those are what make a statement and tell the UFC that this guy's next in line. But I don't know. I just feel like DC is going to maybe pass on fights with both those guys. Too much risk and not enough reward. And one other thing that Francis did say that I thought was really interesting was TMZ actually asked him, would you fight Jon Jones? And he said he wants to fight Jon Jones. That would be a hell of a fight. And I feel like it's more likely, if anything, than a DC fight. Jon Jones, he's always been looking up to move up to heavyweight at some point. Once he beats I shouldn't say once he beats, but if he beats Thiago Santos, which based on the betting odds seems very likely, and I think most people will be picking Jon Jones to win that fight. You can't discount Thiago with that KO power, but Jon Jones probably wins that fight. But Francis calling him out, I think, is kind of smart, actually, because I feel like that's a fight that, first off, I think that is a big fight. I think fans would love to see that fight. And I feel like it's more likely because Jon Jones would eventually move to heavyweight. If DC doesn't want to fight Francis, I think Jon Jones, I think he actually would take that fight. Jon's looking for a challenge. I think Francis is looking for a challenge. Again, Francis has got to get by JDS. That is no small feat. JDS is a beast. Francis is a beast too. We'll see what happens in that fight tomorrow. But I do think it's interesting that Francis was asked about Jon Jones and said, yes, I want to fight him. It's a big fight. It's an interesting fight. I want the challenge of fighting Jon Jones. He also said that they've met and that they're the same height or something. And obviously Francis is wider and bigger, but Jon Jones is a tall guy too. I mean, if he doesn't have to cut weight, if he could eat a little bit more, if he can put on some more muscle, Jon Jones obviously won't be as big as Francis, but he'll still be a big heavyweight, I think. So, we'll see what happens with the Thiago Santos fight, but I think a lot of us have for years wanted to see Jon Jones at heavyweight. At this point, there are some guys left at 205. There's guys like Luke Rockhold, who's also talking a lot of smack right now to Jon Jones out there. There's guys like Alexander Rakic, Johnny Walker, guys like that. They're all good fighters. I feel like Jon Jones' biggest fights are at heavyweight now. Once Thiago Santos is out of the way, the big money fights are at heavyweight. Obviously, Francis isn't like a proven pay-per-view draw or anything like that. We all know that, but he is a guy that fans are intrigued by. And I think if he goes out there and knocks out JDS and then calls out Jon Jones, I think a lot of fans are going to want to see that fight, including myself. I would love to see that matchup. Of course, it's going to, again, depend on what happens tomorrow. JDS might go there to start Jon Jones. And you know what? JDS versus Jon Jones is a good fight too. I mean, that's a great fight. But we'll see what happens. And then, of course, next week with Thiago Santos and Jon Jones. And then in August with Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier in the rematch. Who knows? Maybe Stipe goes and beats Daniel Cormier, and then the prospect of a Jon Jones trilogy fight with DC goes out the window, and then you bring a Shasta fight Francis, or he could fight Stipe. There's a lot of options out there. But I do feel like we are a little bit closer to seeing Jon Jones at heavyweight, which I think is a good thing for the sport because he's been so dominant at 205 for such a long time. Don't get me wrong, it's great to see a dominant champ. We had like Demetrius Johnson, Anderson Silva, GSP in the past. But it's also nice when guys go and test themselves in other weight classes. And that I think that's one thing that's missing from Jon Jones' legacy. Don't get me wrong, he probably, in my opinion, he's the best fighter ever. You know, I think most people would say he probably is the best fighter of all time. But you have to keep in mind that he hasn't really changed weight classes. He's only fought 205, whereas guys like Anderson at least fought at 205. He fought at 205 and 185. GSP fought 185, 170. You got guys like Randy Couture that fought at heavyweight and light heavyweight. You know, guys like BJ fought at welterweight and lightweight, featherweight. So a lot of the best fighters of all time switched weight classes. Jon Jones hasn't yet, but he's still young. He's like 31, so he's got a lot of time to do that kind of stuff. I do feel like we are getting closer though, and heck, if he does want to move to heavyweight, the fight to make is Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones. I mean, if the DC fight's not there, which it could be, and I think a lot of people will be interested in a trilogy fight between DC and Jon Jones at heavyweight. I would too. That would be a great match, especially at heavyweight. But if that's not in the books, in the cards, I should say, man, Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones, that would be a hell of a fight. So I'm glad Francis actually spoke up and said it. I'm glad the reporters asked him about this. It's a good fight. Hope it happens sooner rather than later. A few other things. Speaking of Jon Jones, okay, so the other day, Dana White went on radio and said that the Nevada State Athletic Commission, for some reason I said the New Jersey State Athletic Commission the other day. Sorry, guys. He said that he's trying to work with Nevada to overturn Jon Jones's DQ loss to Matt Hamill from, I think, 2010 to no contest, which would technically keep Jon Jones undefeated. He also has no contest against DC because he tested positive in that fight, the second fight where he won by head kick. I mean, I'm totally fine with this. Joe Rogan's come out. He said he's cool with it too. I think a lot of people are. That was a horrible call by the referee. It was a complete joke. That fight should have been stopped well before the illegal elbow happened. If it wasn't an illegal elbow, 12-6 is a bad rule anyways, but I didn't even think that. I mean, I thought the fight should have stopped a lot sooner. So I didn't think that was a fair assessment to call that fight as a DQ in favor of Matt Hamill. It was probably one of the worst calls ever, to be honest with you. Steve Mazzagatti is no longer a referee. He was one of the worst referees in MMA. I think that says a lot. And, you know, it's been a long time since then. So I think that cooler heads prevailed. And I think that it seems like Nevada's a little bit more open to changing that result of that fight, which, again, I'm totally cool with. But it's funny, right? Because Matt Hamill's out there now. He's calling out Jon Jones, saying, I want the rematch with Jon Jones. Ah, man, Matt Hamill. I mean, geez. You know, I got a lot of respect for Matt Hamill. The guy was, you know, he's deaf. So it's amazing how far he went in a sport like MMA. It's actually incredible that he went that far in sport with his handicap and affliction. But there's no way in hell he should be calling out Jon Jones. I mean, if he does that, he's gonna be in a world of hurt. He's 42 years old now. Matt Hamill is. To be fair to Matt Hamill, he is coming off 2 straight wins. He beat Luis Cane, former UFC fighter, and also Chris Birchler, who fought on the Contender Series last year. But we've seen him lose a lot of fights. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too keen on that fight. And by the way, sorry, I said 2010 for that first fight. It was actually 2009. So it's been 10 years now since the Jon Jones and Matt Hamill fight, where Jon Jones lost by illegal downward elbows. Again, terrible decision there. But Matt Hamill's saying that's the only way to settle this is to do a rematch. I do not agree with you, Matt Hamill. And I don't blame the guy for calling him out. He wants to make a payday. But I mean, 42 years old, it's like, geez, man, poor guy. Like, these guys don't know when to hang it up, some of them. And Matt Hamill's apparently like another one of these guys that just can't hang it up. Again, coming off 2 straight wins, good for him. I don't know. I don't think anyone's really interested in seeing Matt Hamill versus Jon Jones rematch. It's not the right thing to do. Just make it no contest. I think that's probably the right thing to do. It sucks for Matt Hamill, but it is what it is. What else here? Oh, okay. How about this one? Dana White has said he actually wants to book Justin Bieber versus Tom Cruise. So we've heard a lot about this super fight. I don't know what you want to call it, celebrity showdown, whatever. We've heard a lot about this fight the last couple of weeks. And at first, everyone kind of laughed. Justin Bieber later came out and said that he was just joking. He thinks Tom Cruise would kick his ass, which I think a lot of people actually think, despite being 30 years younger. But Dana White actually wants to make this fight. And Ari Emanuel's talked about making this fight as well. It seems to be some legs behind this. So as ridiculous as it sounds, it doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon. Dana keeps asked about it. He keeps saying he's interested. So, I mean, the odds of it happening seem kind of slim at this point, but you'd watch. I'd watch. I mean, who wouldn't watch, right? The whole world would be watching. Even Dana White said this would be the biggest fight I've ever put on, as sad as that sounds. And yes, it does take the UFC down a very slippery slope if they're putting in two celebrities. But, I mean, CM Punk's kind of a celebrity, right? He didn't have any fights. There's been a few other guys. James Toney didn't have any fights. There's been a few guys in MMA that didn't have fights. So, at least with James Toney, yeah, he's a boxer. CM Punk, he's a professional wrestler. I get that. But they still were guys without any MMA fights. So Dana White can go and say that, which I think he would. Knowing Dana, he'll be like, "Oh, we promoted guys that didn't have pro fights before." I mean, yeah, listen, it's ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to promote this fight myself. I'd still watch it. Don't get me wrong, but at this point, I mean, there's been so much ridiculousness that's happened in MMA over the years, interim titles with guys coming in that had no experience, with just people getting title shots off losses, just a lot of stuff that happened in the sport that makes it not really sport more entertainment. And this would be the ultimate sign of an entertainment for sport argument. So we'll see what happens, but there does seem to be a little bit of smoke to the fire that that Tom Cruise could fight Justin Bieber, so we'll see what happens there. All right, next up, got a couple fight announcements, but okay, actually, one other thing I want to talk about here, Desmond Green. I spoke about him at length yesterday with the case. He was jailed. His lawyer says he's out of jail, but okay, Stephen Rocco did a great story, by the way. He's a great reporter, MMAJunkie.com. Go read his story. He actually spoke to the lawyer of Desmond Green. Okay, so first, there's a lot of time packing this one. I mean, I don't think this story is going away anytime soon. First off, he says Desmond Green's innocent. He says that it wasn't his fault, and they're going to, try to prove that Desmond was not at fault for this accident that, again, tragically killed two women. Very, very sad stuff. You got to read his arguments though. This guy is ridiculous. I mean, some of the stuff he's saying is like, oh well, if he had cocaine in his front seat, wouldn't he be high on cocaine? Like if you like cocaine, wouldn't he be using it? Like it's kind of ridiculous arguments, to be honest with you. Everything we've seen was that Desmond Green was driving while intoxicated. So at this point, the police seem to have a very strong case and a lot of evidence against Desmond Green. This lawyer is saying that, well, you took the DUI test a few hours after the accident, so that he's going to try getting that thrown out. Yeah, this guy, I don't know. I mean, listen, I get it. He has a lawyer. The guy's trying to fight for him, but some of his arguments are a little ridiculous. Also, apparently Desmond Green, this is his second lawyer. There was another lawyer that tried to tell Desmond to plead guilty, if I'm not mistaken. So again, read that story, but it's kind of interesting he's on a second lawyer now. That is very interesting. There's got to be a lot of evidence, as we know. And like I said, the lawyer said that Desmond's out of jail, but according to Steve Morocco, the online records say that Desmond's still detained. So I don't know if there was bond posted at this point or not, but again, $200,000. It was $198,000. That's a lot of money. I don't think Green had that, but someone might have put it up for him. Either way, it's crazy though. The UFC hasn't said anything yet. Unreal. I mean, this is not just a DUI. Listen, DUI is horrible. I mean, I have no respect for people that drive under the influence. That is disgusting and horrible. Driving drunk. In this day and age, you have so many different ways to get home. There's no excuse for driving drunk. It's just horrible. And again, this one left a couple people dead. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say right now except that the UFC it's ridiculous they haven't come with a statement and that they haven't released this guy at this point. I mean, honestly, he's an undercard lightweight in the most stacked division in the UFC, a guy who tends to win by decision. Like, he's not even really an exciting fighter. Doesn't make sense that he hasn't been cut yet. Doesn't make sense they haven't made a statement. Very strange. I don't get it. Very, very weird. I get it. The legal system does play out, but I feel at this point it has. And the evidence is overwhelmingly against this guy. Just wash your hands with him, UFC. There's no point in keeping Desmond Green in the roster anymore. Okay, so a few other fight announcements, but there's been a fight cancellation for tomorrow. I got to get to this quickly. The Vince Murdock versus Jordan Griffin featherweight fight has been officially canceled from the card. Vince Murdock was deemed medically unfit to compete, so that's unfortunate. I actually was looking forward to that fight. I like Jordan Griffin. I think he's a pretty decent fighter, so that's very unfortunate that he was basically lost his chance to fight. I hope he gets the chance to weigh in today and get a show money at least. It's not his fault. The opponent didn't or wasn't medically cleared to fight. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but it is weird that this guy took a fight on short notice and then wasn't cleared to fight. Did he say he could make weight and didn't make weight? I don't know. So that's kind of weird. But yes, I feel bad for Griffin because the guy trained a whole camp and then lost his fight the last second. Also, there's been a release. Ivan Shrikov, who was supposed to fight Devin Clark at UFC Russia a few months ago, has been released by the UFC. And apparently he did, from what we were reading, allegedly he did test positive by USADA, so they just caught him anyways. That's too bad. I mean, look at the guy. I think his nickname was the Hulk. He looked like a monster. I don't think anyone's surprised. I think a lot of speculation at the time when he was pulled from the card was, hey, this guy's a juicer. Now we know that he has tested positive. So that's too bad because I actually was looking forward to seeing that guy in the UFC, but he had a lot of good wins. But again, USADA is doing their job. Okay, a couple fight announcements and then I'll get out of here. UFC 242, again, I've talked about this card a lot. This is a great card. I can't wait for this one. This is Habib versus Dustin Poirier. 2 more fights have been added to this card. Again, just a great fight, and a lot of, like I said, Muslim-based fighters will be added to this card, and they continue to be. Here we go. Middleweight bout between Omari Akhmedov and Zach Cummings. That's a good fight. Omari Akhmedov, he's coming off of a 4-fight unbeaten streak. Beat Tim Bosch in his last fight in a really good fight. He's just, or actually the Marvin Vettori fight was good too. The guy's a good fighter. I mean, he hasn't had tons of consistency in the UFC. If you look at his resume, he's 6-3 in 1 no contest. He had a couple losses earlier by knockout, but since moving up to middleweight, he looked a lot better. It looks like his chin's more durable. So this guy's pretty good. And now he's taking on Zach Cummings, another guy who fought at welterweight for a bit, but moved back up to middleweight. It looked great. Back-to-back wins over Trevor Smith, Trevin Giles. Looked amazing against Trevin Giles. Great finish there. I was surprised by how good he looked in that fight. This is an interesting matchup, no doubt about it. Good matchup. Don't know who wins, but based on the fact that Zach Cummings had that great win in his last fight, maybe the bettors will tend to favor him here. Although I do think our Akhmedov has a good chance to win just based on the style matchup. He's just a grinder. And then here's a really, really good fight that's been added to this card, guys. I love this matchup. Magomed Mustafaev versus Don Madge. I love this fight. This is going to be a good one. Magomed Mustafaev 3-1 in the UFC, coming off an insane knockout win over Rafael Fiziev. A spinning back kick to the head and punches. It was an awesome performance. The guy's a beast. 15 wins, all 15 by stoppage. Also beat Piotr Hallman and Joe Proctor by stoppage. He did get submitted by Kevin Lee, but a lot of guys would. And then he takes on Don Madge, who had an absolutely incredible UFC debut. Don the Magic Man Madge. He beat Tay Edwards by head kick last fall, last October. An amazing knockout. The guy's from South Africa. He's a beast. I love this guy. Looked amazing in that fight again. He's got an interesting record. He's what's his record? 8-3-1, but the 3 losses are to the same guy, Leon Midhart. Everyone else he's beaten and everyone else he's finished. So the guy's an absolute monster. He's on a 5-fight win streak. Also beat Dave Mazzani in that win streak. That's the brother of Gina Mazzani, who's in the UFC as well. So I don't know. I just really like Don Madge. I was super impressed by his performance, and I can't wait to see what happens in this fight. This is going to be a good one here, guys. Both guys are studs. Both guys looked incredible in their last fights. We'll see what happens. Don't know who's going to win. I would assume the Mustafaev will be favored because Don Madge was a huge underdog against Tay Edwards, but I mean, maybe people will start to respect him now after that knockout. It was an insane knockout. So great matchmaking. And again, that card is just shaping up to be so good. I can't wait for that event. It's going to be a really good one. I think that's it for now, guys. I don't see anything else that is worth noting, really. I've been scouring Twitter all morning to see if anyone would miss weight, but I haven't seen that yet. It's possible someone could. There are the weigh-ins going on right now. I'm just going to go check quickly to see if there's been any weight misses. I don't see any right now. Looks like everyone's good to go at this point, but again, there's still a little bit of time left. So it's possible at the time the podcast is done, someone will miss weight. I don't think so, though. Everything I'm seeing is everyone's good to go. So the card should be good to go with 12 fights. Hopefully nothing else happens where another fight's canceled. Guys, thank you guys again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Love doing the podcast, as you guys know. Follow me on Twitter at MMAOB. Follow this podcast, MMAOddsbreaker.com, and on our YouTube channel, MMAOddsbreaker.com. Please like, share, and subscribe that. Tell your friends about it. I'd appreciate that. Check me out at sherdog.com this weekend doing the play-by-play for UFC on ESPN3. Also, the prime picks for that will be out, I believe, today. They should have came out yesterday, but they'll be out today. MMARatings.net, I sent one in on Joseph Benavidez versus UCA Formiga, which is a really big fight. MMAnews.com, I have my top 5 fighters to watch out for on this card. And BJPenn.com will have some news articles, I'm sure, before this weekend. This is the last weekend of June, guys. We made it to the summer. July starts. July 1st is Monday. That'll be Canada Day. I will do a podcast on Monday in the morning, but I might. I don't know what I'm going to do Canada Day. I might go to Jay's game. I don't know. I might just hang out. I'm not too sure. I might just enjoy my day. We'll see. But either way, guys, I hope you really do enjoy your long weekend if you are celebrating it this weekend. If you're not, no worries. I'm working tomorrow. I'm sure a lot of us are. But please, guys, take a look at the play-by-play tomorrow if you're not available to watch UFC and ESPN3. And even if you are watching, join me in. Check out our scoring. If you disagree, no worries. Always appreciate the feedback. Always appreciate just the support, guys. Been doing this since 2011. Continue to do it. Always expanding. Always doing new things. Like I said, I'm starting a new job with BJPenn.com. Starting, I believe, actually Monday. Well, technically be next weekend, but yes. Thank you to the team there for believing in me. I'm looking forward to taking I already have my talent there, but I mean, just kind of expanding my role at BJPenn.com. It's been a really good ride so far there. I've only been there for 2 months, but already, moving up. So that's a good sign for sure. I'm looking forward to that. But of course, I got to thank Nick and MMAOddsBreaker.com. I just wanted to give him a thanks because I've been doing this podcast for just over a month now. I've really enjoyed it. This was Nick's idea, and I think it's been a good idea. I used to do the odds and ends, doing the written news, and there's no problem with that. But I really do like doing the live format, the podcast. It's a lot of fun. So I got to thank Nick. That was his idea. You're the man, Nick. So I appreciate that, man. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna get out of here. Have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you guys very soon.